So, picture this. A set of scientific notebooks, absolute treasures of human history, but they're so dangerous they have to be kept locked away in boxes lined with lead. And no, this isn't some sci-fi movie plot. This is the real and literally untouchable legacy of Marie Curie. Let's get into it.
When you go to archives in Paris or London to see these things, it's not like looking at some old manuscript. This is a whole different level. Before you could even dream of getting close, you have to sign a liability waiver. You're basically signing a piece of paper that says, yes, I understand the potential risks here.
And that's just step one. The whole process is this careful ritual. First, you sign the waiver. Then, you get suited up in protective gear. And only after all that do they finally open the heavy lead box. It's a procedure that screams, this is not ordinary. So how on earth did a bunch of notebooks get so hazardous? To really get it, we've got to travel back in time, over 100 years ago. We're heading to the age of radium, a time when radioactivity was this brand new, almost magical discovery that nobody truly understood. Marie Curie's own words really set the scene, don't they? She knew this wasn't going to be easy. She and her husband, Pierre, were pioneers, stepping into completely uncharted scientific territory. And the place they did this groundbreaking work? Well, it was anything but ideal. Yeah, forget a modern sterile lab. Their workspace was basically an abandoned shed. It used to be a dissection room, and it was so run down that it leaked when it rained. It barely protected them from the weather, let alone the invisible, powerful forces they were working with every single day.
It's honestly mind-boggling to think about now, but back then, nobody had a clue that radiation was dangerous. The Curies would just carry vials of radioactive elements around in their pockets. They spent years processing tons of raw ore by hand. At night, Marie even wrote about admiring the faint fairy lights their radium gave off in the dark. It was this constant, direct contact that saturated everything they owned with radioactivity.
Okay, so that explains how the contamination happened. But that was over a century ago. Why are these notebooks still radioactive? Well, the answer is all about the specific element they discovered. The main culprit here is an isotope called Radium-226. This is the stuff they work so hard to isolate, and it's the element that is stubbornly stuck to everything, her papers, her furniture, even her cookbooks. And this number, 1,600 years, this is the key to the whole story. It's not just some random number, it's the reason her legacy is still physically glowing, in a way. So what exactly does it mean? It's the half-life of Radium-226. That means it takes 1,600 years for its radioactivity to drop by just half. So the 100 or so years that have passed since Marie Curie was in that lab, for the radium, that's just a blink of an eye. Almost all of it is still there, still active.
Please remember to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell, share and like our videos. The information in the video is compiled from open sources. Thank you. Okay, so this all sounds terrifying, right? You've got these deadly notebooks that glow in the dark. But what is the actual risk here? It's time to separate the myth from the reality. Here's the big question everyone asks. If you touched one of these pages with your bare hand, would it be instantly fatal? Well, the short answer is no. It's not like in the movies. The real danger is a bit more complicated, and you need to understand two key ideas. So it's all about exposure versus contamination. The radium on the pages mostly gives off something called alpha particles, which are actually really weak. They can't even get through the outer layer of your skin. So just being exposed, being near the notebooks is not a big deal. The real risk is contamination. That means getting a tiny particle of radioactive dust on your hands and then, touching your mouth or inhaling it. That's why the protective gear is so important. And check this out. This makes it all crystal clear. This image is an autoradiograph. It's basically a picture taken by the notebook's own radiation. You can see the dark spots where the contamination is heaviest. And look closely. You can even make out a radioactive thumbprint. It's quite possibly Marie Curie's. This image literally makes the invisible danger visible. To put it all in perspective, let's just look at the numbers. If you stand by the museum display case for 10 minutes, you get a dose of about 2 nanosieverts. Now compare that to the dose you get just from living on Earth for a day, what we call background radiation. That's around 10 to 15 microsieverts, which is thousands of times higher. A single chest X-ray is even more than that. So yes, the risk from the notebooks is real, but under controlled conditions, it's actually very, very small.
The story gets even more interesting when you look at what happened to Curie herself. In 1995, her body was moved to the Pantheon in Paris. Everyone expected to find high levels of radiation, but they didn't. Her body was buried in a lead-lined coffin, but it had surprisingly low levels of contamination. The best guess is that as she got older and the dangers of radiation became clearer, she got a lot smarter and safer about how she handled it.
Which brings us right back to today. We're left with this incredible scientific legacy that is, at the same time, a piece of hazardous material. So how do we deal with that? How do we access her genius?
I mean, it's a true paradox. On one hand, these pages are priceless. They're the birth certificate of the atomic age. On the other hand, they carry a physical risk you just can't ignore.
And the solution today is actually pretty elegant. It's two-sided. For the few scholars who absolutely need to handle the physical books, we have those strict, careful protocols. But for everyone else, technology has saved the day. The notebooks have been completely digitized, so anyone, anywhere in the world can study every single page online completely risk-free.
There is this quote that just sums it all up perfectly. It says, "It seems fitting that Curie left a scientific legacy that is literally untouchable." She opened up this powerful, invisible world for all of us, and in the process left behind artifacts that are forever marked by that very same power.
When you really think about it, these notebooks are so much more than just old paper. They're a physical reminder of the cost of discovery, written back when no one knew the dangers. They're the reason we have radiation safety rules today. And it leaves you with a big question. What does this tangible piece of history teach us about our own responsibilities as we chase the next big breakthrough?